Hey there. So, my next guest is a marketer in the gaming space, but not just that, he also has an esports team. So, he's blending the marketing and the esports, and he's doing it all. And it's really cool. I love having marketers on my show because I see it so infrequently in this space. I know you're all going to love this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Jordan Rogers. Hey there, Jordan. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
You know, it's actually gotten pretty nice here in Kansas City. It was cold a couple of weeks ago, and we're glad to have the warm weather, so it's doing great.
Beautiful. All right. So, Jordan, I don't like a lot of fluff on the show. I like getting just right into it. So, Why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah. So my name's Jordan Rogers. I am the owner and director of PR for GGPR Esports. It is a esports organization that we started a couple of years ago that's starting to really get some recognition. And, that's the basics. I work in PR and marketing outside of that, and just an avid gamer.
Beautiful. I'm really looking forward to this because I've met so few people who actually understand marketing in this space, and
Yes.
I really want to pick your brain. All right.
Excellent.
So before we kind of get into any of that, though, I start every episode with a single question. So I'm going to ask you just like I ask everybody else. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Jordan?
Probably about an 8. I'll be completely honest. Yep.
And why is that?
Just all across the board. I've got a goofy personality, and then, you can talk to me about anything from marketing and PR to the nerdiest of anime and gaming and things like that. So just all across the board. And I just love to learn. And I don't know, I've been told I'm a little weird. So
all right. Not to mention there's a second sword behind you now that I see this.
Yes.
When we first, before we were just chatting before we started, you had a katana back there.
Yeah, I had a katana from when I was streaming Ghost of Tsushima, and this is the Master Sword, of course, from The Legend of Zelda. So,
all right, I love it. Okay, now on that note, this is the Gamerpreneur podcast, so I do need your gaming cred. I could tell just by looking at you, you're a gamer. However, when did you first start playing video games, Jordan?
Oh, I was very, very young. I mean, as soon as I could pick up a controller, I remember going to my friend's house and playing Super Nintendo and the early Mario games. And then, I've gamed ever since then. My uncle introduced me to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I have never stopped since then.
That was such a classic, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I've probably beaten it 30, 40 times. So, yeah.
All right. What do you play today, if anything?
I'm kind of all across the board right now. I am finishing up the newest Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I play Call of Duty, a little Counter-Strike here and there, pretty much anything, as long as it piques my interest.
Okay. Now you've been playing a long time. You've had a lot of access to games, it sounds like.
Yep.
If you had to pick one game as your all-time favorite, though, which one would it be?
Oh, it's Ocarina of Time, easily, hands down. Yeah, it's my favorite. It's actually still sitting right here in my N64. So
there it is. You don't have the gold cart.
No, I don't. I used to have it, and I'm pretty sure my parents got rid of it. I was not very happy about that, but yes.
I feel your pain.
I know.
Okay, so I got to ask then, what's your stance on the water temple?
I hate it. It's actually usually where I get stuck, just because I forget how many different ways, or how many different rooms you have to go into and all of these different things with the levels of the water. And yeah, it's not my friend.
All right, Jordan, let's get over to the preneur part because that's what we're really here for.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and begin by telling me a little bit about your professional background? How did you end up where you're at today?
Yeah, so I actually went to school for marketing and public relations, and I've worked at a PR firm for about 6-7 years now. So I've had clients across the board from fashion to technology to like police training, like everything all across the board. But I've always been a gamer at heart. And one of my best friends, he actually is a very, very good Counter-Strike player. I've known him since I was about 5. And when I was in college, he's like, hey, you should start doing marketing for gamers. And so that's kind of what got me into the gaming side of things. At first, I was like, there's no way this isn't going to work. There's no way this industry booms like it's going to. Of course, I was wrong. And so I got into it and actually started, originally it was called Good Game PR. And then we shifted to an org since then. But that's kind of how, that's my background and how I got into it.
Okay, please tell me about the org.
Yeah, so right now we are in ESEA Premier for Counter-Strike. It's the semi-pro league. We actually won ESEA main a couple of seasons ago, and then got second in advanced and moved up. And the team is doing great. They've gotten as high as like number 9 in North America, according to HLTV, top 60 in the world. And that's our main team is the Counter-Strike team. We also have a stream team that is all across the board. We have players who play Smash Bros. We have players who are League of Legends or World of Warcraft. So we've got people all across the board. But the Counter-Strike team is kind of what we built off of and what's helped us grow.
Okay, setting aside the marketing business for just a second, which I really do want to get to.
Yep.
What made you decide to start, an org, the stream teams, the esports teams? Why do that?
Um, I think it's just because of the growth of the Counter-Strike team. They were doing so well, and originally, basically, how I had set it up is I was doing Good Game PR, which was a marketing PR company for esports organizations, and I was basically sponsoring this team, and they were playing as Good Game PR. But they were doing so well, and I had other people coming to me like, "Hey, can we be a part of this? Can we be a streamer for you?" That it just seemed like a better path to success overall for everybody involved. And we weren't adding a bunch of other teams that needed marketing or PR help. It just seemed like so insignificant to them in their eyes, which isn't true. It shouldn't be true, but we were doing so well that I just decided to make that shift along with the Counter-Strike team and kind of shift toward the org and grow from there.
Okay, and what has it been like for you trying to adapt to this? Because your background is in marketing and PR, and
Right.
now you're in sports.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different. I've learned a lot. Luckily, I have a lot of connections through people that I know in like Midwest CS:GO and Party Invite, which is another group that does local kind of Midwest esports stuff. And so I luckily have a lot of connections, and that's helped a lot. But it's definitely a shift for me because I have that marketing brain and having to think more on the business and sports side as well. It is something that it's been a learning process.
Okay, tell me about your marketing brain. What does it take to market in this space? Because like I said, I haven't seen a lot of people marketing. I've found a handful here or there, but it's like really rare to find someone in the gaming space doing marketing.
Yeah. Like I said, it's different. And especially because of the age range of a lot of the people who are interested in gaming, you have to think and think outside the box, I guess is the best way to explain it. And it is so fast paced and just moving all the time that you have to be ready at a moment's notice to hop on marketing trends. You've got fast food brands who are going out in Fortnite and destroying freezers as a marketing tool. Like you've got all these things going on, and so you just have to be willing to adapt all the time.
Okay, I need your opinion on KFC's chicken chamber.
It's something, I mean, it's not something that I would have suggested. And I've worked with brands before at an advertising company who have tried to get into esports, not KFC specifically, but other ones. And I wouldn't have thought of it off the top of my head. That's for sure.
Okay. So part of the purpose or the main purpose of my show is really to get advice out of my guests that can then be
Yep.
translated into my audience that they can use in order to grow their businesses.
Yeah.
So what are some of like the top 3 things, influencers, content creators, esports teams, gaming businesses, what do they need to know in order to really conquer this marketing game?
Patience is probably the number one thing. I know, I have friends who have streamed for, a long time and they don't see that success right away. And it's something that, people get down, they only have 2 viewers if they're a content creator. And you just have to be patient and keep doing what you do. If you try to change your personality to fit the audience you want, it's not going to be authentic. So I think patience and then authenticity is another really big thing. And then, thirdly, like I said before, is just the willingness to adapt too, and try new things, like trying new games, and really just always, I guess, staying on top of everything that's going on in the gaming world, because there is a lot and it's always moving.
Okay, on that point, there's something like 2 million plus streamers on Twitch.
Yes.
How do you stand out? Is it really just dumping dollars in, hoping people see ads, or like what would you
Um,
recommend?
I, I don't necessarily. Advertising is always going to help a little bit, but it's not my first recommendation. I think it is just a consistency and patience game, and like I said, being yourself. I think as long as if people start to realize, hey, this guy's streaming at 3 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I know I like his stuff. I can get on, and then making sure like you are taking advantage of social media and actually tweeting out your content, going in and clipping everything, and making sure people know when you're going to be online. I think that is like the first and foremost most important thing, because sometimes people will just stream and not talk about it in social media, and how's anybody going to know that you're on there if that's the case?
Okay. Is there a trick to doing marketing, or is it simply that you have to keep kind of on top of the algorithm changes? Is it just constant study, or is it like the vision?
It's both. It depends on your platform, right? So if you're on Instagram, looking at the aesthetic of people's feeds is really important, right? So like, you don't want it to look super scattered. You want it to look clean. And then on Twitter, I think it's just making sure that you are communicating with people in your community, right? So you are, even if they're not talking back, like some of these big streamers, but you want to respond to them. Like if they ask a question, respond, give your opinion, and then always talking about the things you like. So if a new game's coming out and you like it a lot, make sure you're talking about that, and then posting your content. I think those are the most important things. There are other things like hashtags and all of that that are obviously important to the algorithm, but it's definitely making sure that you're consistent and that you're just talking on there a lot. So
Okay, very cool. Now on GGPR side,
yes.
how is it any different in marketing a team as opposed to like a content creator, or do you treat this more like a media company?
Um, I'd say it's a little different, maybe not than a content creator from a team, but like your own personal account from a team. Well, I guess a lot of content creators, it is their own personal account, but um, it is slightly different, right? Like you might say things that are a little more off the wall from your content creation side than as a team, because as a team, you're not only representing yourself, you're representing everyone on your team, right? And so you want to make sure that you're not saying, you don't want to say anything inappropriate, period, but it's got to be in line with your vision as a team. Where as a content creator, I think you can like communicate with other creators a little bit more and be kind of a little goofier and things like that. But yeah, I think it's slightly different, but not like night and day.
Okay, now industry wide, pulling back
Yes.
a bit, should esports teams be more like media companies, or should they focus on the sport, or is there a healthy balance somewhere in there?
I think there's kind of a healthy balance. It's very important to focus on the sport, right? Because that's what it is. That's what you're doing. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a tough question. It's a good one. I'd say focus a little more on the sport, because that's what they're doing. Like if you look at it, I think looking at sports teams in general, like the NFL or the NBA or anything like that, is kind of a good representation of where esports teams should be going. Except that maybe their audience is a little younger. And so like I love when these teams are like putting out memes and like kind of like poking fun at their players for bad plays and stuff like that, but then also propping them up. Like there's a lot of good things that they're doing to keep it fun as well, which I think is really, really important.
Okay, beautiful. Now, Jordan, I'd like to get a little more personal if possible.
Okay.
And let's hop in a time machine. We're gonna go back in time to
Okay.
your very first day at your first marketing company, right after getting out of college, right? And
Okay.
you get to go up to little Jordan and you get to tell him everything that's going to happen in his next several years of his life, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the successes, all the failures and challenges. And you're going to be
Mhm.
able to advise him on what to do to just do it bigger, better, faster, more profitable. But if there was
Yeah.
one thing you had to say, like you have to get this across, what is that one thing?
Um, I think a big thing is just not worrying about the stresses, because it is very, very stressful and fast paced in the marketing world, and just kind of rolling with the punches sometimes, because I mean, there are times you feel overwhelmed. You're working 70-hour weeks. You're working for 6 clients at once, and things are crazy. But just to like take a deep breath, because it is all going to work out the way it's supposed to. Like, I think that is so important to realize, and it's hard when you're in the moment, right? Like, it's really difficult sometimes, but that's kind of where I would go with that one.
That's so true. And it applies to pretty much everybody, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now, Jordan, getting even more personal. You see,
Yep.
I actually believe that we learn the most in our life from our failures, not necessarily our
Yes.
successes.
Yep.
Because when you succeed, you may not realize what happened, right?
Right.
But if you fail, like you run an ad and it just flops, right? You
Yep.
got to take a look at it. What went wrong? How do I fix this? So I'd like to ask you, what
Yeah.
do you consider your biggest failure in life? And what did you learn from it?
I have 2 actually. One of them is I started off as an engineer in college. And like I was like a math whiz. I absolutely loved it. And I just like I know it's weird. But I didn't succeed in it. And it stopped being fun, I guess, so maybe it's not necessarily a failure because it led me down the right path. Which I think is important to kind of realize, but it at the time I considered it a huge failure. And then another one is actually another company that I started with a friend of mine. It was almost like a combination of like a Slack and a Reddit. And we had full blueprints and everything we wanted to do, and it just didn't work out. It was too big for our britches at the time. Like, we were just out of college, and it was too much. We actually met with some investors, and they were like, no, like just straight up like, no, this isn't going to work. Turns out that there's a company just like what we were trying to create now. But so those are the 2 big ones. But, I definitely learned a lot from it. Like, I was able to go speak to people about funding and things like that, and help me, learn how to run a business. So.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Kind of on the flip side, what is something that you're working to improve on in yourself today?
One of my really big challenges is delegating tasks. I like to try to take everything on myself, and then it ends up being like way too much. Because I like sometimes in my head, it's just easier for me to do it than to explain to someone how to do it. It's like one of those, I could just teach this guy how to fish and he would help me forever type of thing. So definitely delegating tasks and being able to communicate those to other people in a way that isn't just me being like, here, do this, so yeah, that's definitely something.
For sure. All right, Jordan, this has been a fantastic interview. How do people find you? Where are you out on social media, contact information, all that, please?
So you can find me at Jordan Rogers 09. And so that's JordanRogers 09. All of the social media platforms, they're all that. And then, of course, GGPR Esports is our team's handles. Website, same thing, all across the board.
All right. Fantastic. Now, as we wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share? Anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think it's important for people to just, keep grinding and doing what they love. And eventually you'll become successful. And don't get down on yourself if you only have 2 viewers on your stream or something like that. Just keep it up and you'll get there. So.
Beautiful. All right, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on. I genuinely do appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you. It was a great time. I appreciate it.
For sure. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.